I've come across an interesting video from a young man on TikTok. I want us to watch this particular video. I will be back.
Europeans never discovered anything. They looted, colonized, and took credit. The myth of European discovery is one of the most arrogant, historically illiterate lies ever told. Europeans didn't discover land, resources, or trade routes. They showed up late, stole shit, and renamed it. Then they rewrote themselves into the history books as pioneers. If someone breaks into your house, kills half your family, renames your living room, and tells everyone that they discovered it, that's what European exploration actually was. Columbus did not discover America. I hope you know that. Millions of people already lived here. He never even set foot in what is currently the United States. He landed in the Caribbean, got lost, then spent his time terrorizing, enslaving, and murdering the Taino people. The indigenous peoples of the Americas were thriving for 10,000 years before Columbus was even born. The Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas had cities, infrastructure, agriculture, as well as advanced knowledge of astronomy and engineering. The Norse, or the Vikings, reached North America 500 years before Columbus. But even they weren't discovering anything because indigenous people were already there. If Columbus had discovered the Americas, that would mean that you could walk into a McDonald's, discover it, and then own it. It isn't discovery, it's theft. Nor did Europeans discover Australia. Aboriginal Australians had been living there for 65,000 years. The oldest continuous civilization on Earth is Aboriginal Australia, with art, culture, and land management techniques dating back tens of thousands of years. When the British discovered Australia in 1770, they declared it terra nullius, meaning nobody's land, despite over 250 indigenous nations already living there. The British then slaughtered, oppressed, and displaced Aboriginal peoples for centuries, turning their homeland into a penal colony for British criminals. Europeans didn't discover trade routes to Asia. The Silk Road and Indian Ocean trade existed for thousands of years before Europeans even knew what a compass was. The Silk Road connected China, India, the Middle East, and Africa for 1,500 years before the Europeans even got involved. The Indian Ocean trading network, dominated by Arabs, Persians, Indians, and East Africans, had already been running for centuries before Spain and Portugal tried to muscle their way in. The Chinese Admiral Zheng He led massive expeditions across the Indian Ocean in the early 1400s, decades before the Portuguese even figured out how to round Africa. Europeans didn't discover Africa, which, if you believe that, what am I doing? Africa had thriving empires and global trade before Europeans even left their villages. Europeans like to pretend that Africa was a dark continent before they arrived. But that's complete bullshit. The Mali Empire between the 13th and 16th century was one of the wealthiest civilizations on Earth, with a vast trade network spanning across the Sahara. The Swahili coast had advanced maritime trade connecting India, Africa, and the Middle East centuries before the Europeans even showed up. Timbuktu was a major intellectual center, home to one of the world's oldest universities. When the Portuguese first arrived in West Africa, they didn't discover it. They had to ask permission from the African kings to set up trade ports. They didn't discover anything. They didn't civilize anything. They didn't modernize anything. They looted, colonized, and rewrote history. Cope.
This has been the lies, miseducation, and indoctrination that has been fed on people like Africa for us to feel inferior on ourselves. We have been told that when the Europeans arrived in Africa, our ancestors were living on top of trees. We used to sleep on top of trees. But today we can find a trace of history. When you go to places like Nigeria, you go to Mali Empire, you go to many places, you can find civilized houses that was created by our ancestors. There is a wall that was built by in Benin, in Nigeria. I think it's Benin in Nigeria. There is a wall that was built which the British came to destroy it during their war with the indigenous of Nigeria. And all these things has been hidden. They are always saying civilization started from Africa. And at the end of the day, if civilization started from Africa, how come these people says they are the one who came to discover Africa, who came who also went to discover America and all the other countries that some Europeans claim they are the one who sent civilization to that particular continent or that country? We have been lied to, and what is really affecting us today is they made sure they wiped our history out, so the new generation will not find anything to read about themselves, do not learn about their history, do not learn about their ancestry. So most of us believe in anything that has been fed on us, and many think it's only whites or only Europeans that invent technologies, invent everything, which is a big fat lie. Many Africans has invented stuff that if we mention to you, you are going to be surprised. It's about time Africans, I'm talking to Africans because I'm an African. It's about time Africans, we feel proud of ourselves. We stop being inferior to ourselves, because as it stands now, many people feel inferior. Many people think they can only make it in Europe or in US. That is the only place they can make it, and that is also some indoctrination that has been fed on us to think that we can't do anything. Our professionals should also find a way of adding their quota to this continent. It shouldn't be always running away and seeking for greener pasture. It's not always about money, but helping your country to round out of all these challenges or all these puppets that has been implemented by the same Europeans to make sure all these lies are being propagated to convince the new generation that they can't do anything without them Europeans. That is why you can see our governance, our way of governance. You can see our people only depend on foreign aid. Our people only depend on loans from World Bank, loans from IMF. That is the impact of colonial legacy. Leaders only comes, and at the time you realized when they were campaigning, they were shouting, they have all the answers to our problems. When they are coming, they are campaigning that they will solve every problems of Africans. But when they are given the mandate, you realize they start begging for loans. They start begging for aid. We have a whole vast of, a whole vast of resources. We have gold, we have diamond, we have everything. But how come we can't even refine all these resources in our country? How come we can't implement policies that will help refine these resources in our country to create jobs? Because of the lies they have fed us. They have fed us a whole lot of lies, and many believes in him. That's the problem. Many believes that whatever the Europeans tell them is the truth. That is why our judges keep on wearing a wig. Please, you can join my Telegram group by going to my description box. Click on the Telegram link. It will take you to my Telegram platform. Join us for us to discuss about the well-being of Africa and Africans in diaspora. And if today is your first time coming to this channel, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification button so that anytime I upload any great content, you will be notified. Thanks for watching.